everybody, it's Sharon here. Welcome back to my channel for those who are returning, and welcome to any new subscribers that may be visiting for the first time. So in our last video we made this journal cover using an envelope. Now I must check and see what size envelope it was, but I think it's a C4. Don't quote me on that though. I believe it's 9 by 12, so I hope that helps. I'll just check that, but I'm pretty sure by the look of it it's 9 by 12 and a half, actually, roughly 12 and a half by 9, and it's a really good size for a journal cover. So if I take, I've got a printed A4 sheet here just folded in half. If I pop that in side there, you can see I've got a really nice amount of negative space all the way around for when it's sewn into the signature. So, and I really love the way the journal cover turned out. Now once I turned the camera off, I don't know why, but this little piece of calico was sitting, it was one of the strips that I tore off the piece that went on the inside, and I looked at it and I went, maybe I'd like that on the outside spine, and I really love it there. I think the fraying here brings in the fraying on the outside, but I've decided not to do anything more with it until I actually use it for whatever project I use it for. So I'm just going to keep it paper clipped on the cover for now. Part of the reason is because I'm not sure if I'd like to glue this on over the sewing. So when I sew the signature in, whether I'd like to pop that over the top of the sewing and actually hide that sewing in. I'm also undecided as to whether I want to stitch around it. So again, I think it depends on the project I use it for. So I'm just going to leave it at that, and I'm just going to snip that little piece off. Just going to leave it for now as is and let the project that I use it for determine how I'd like to finish it off. But I really love it. I adore having that piece of calico down the spine. As you know, it's just not me if it doesn't have calico. What I would need to do is add some fray stop to that, like I did the outside. Now when I did the outside with the fray stop, what I didn't mention is that I actually went around and I just ran my fingernail or thumbnail over the stitching, over the frayed edges a little bit, just to loosen them up. I'm thinking I would glue this in place, and I may need to use some clips or something to hold it in place while the glue dries, I'm thinking. But really love that as a journal cover. So I've decided I want to continue with my journal covers. I'm just I'm playing with ideas, and I'd like to get myself a little stash of journal covers that I can have as a go-to. So what I have here is a Repurposed Manila Folder. Now it's not quite full size. I have taken off, it had been written on, so I've cut those strips off, and I've also trimmed it. It was a foolscap, I believe, so I've trimmed off enough to make it, I've actually made it 12 inches long, and I've decided that that is actually the height that I'd like it to be. So I'm going to just burnish that down. Now I haven't thought this completely through, I just have part of an idea of what I want to do. So I'm going to get my scoreboard, and I want to score it at 9 inches. Sorry, I was thinking, I'm like, do I want to trim the width first? I haven't quite decided what I want to do with the width, that's why. So let me do this. So I'm scoring at 9. I might continue that as far as I can. And then I have tried doing this with the folder or card that I'm working on doubled over and it really didn't work. So I found if I do it singly and just meet somewhere in the middle, it works much better. Okay, so I want to fold this up. So essentially I've decided to create some pockets at the front and the back is what I'm thinking. But I do have enough on this side. I possibly have enough on this side too. I haven't actually measured, but I've got plenty of spare on this side that I could have a pocket at the front and then maybe a tuck at the back. So I have choices, guys, and I don't know what to do. So I'm steering towards a side tuck at the back and having a pocket at the front. Let me check my measurement. Oh, I have plenty to play with. Gosh. Okay, so if I use this as a guide again, decisions, decisions, decisions. As you see, I have plenty there to create a tuck at the front and to have a pocket at the back. I kind of like the idea of having a pocket at the back. I'm totally just sharing my thought process with you at the moment. I like the idea of having the pocket at the back because I feel like the back is the heaviest. Don't ask me why I think that, but that's just where my mind's gone. But then I'm like, if I have lots of things tucked in, am I better to have it at the front so it's not in the journaling, like in the way for when you're journaling? But I guess either way it's not going to matter. Oh, I don't know. I wasn't expecting decision making like that. Let me check here. So if I were to score that roughly at 2, or that's not working for me. Okay, you're nutting this out with me, guys. Sorry. So what's that? 2 1/8. I just don't know that that's enough. Part of the reason I'm thinking it's not enough is because I'm planning on only having one signature in this journal. And if I have 15 to 20 pages, they're going to protrude further and further. So I want to make sure I have enough coverage with the spine to cover that. So I'm actually going to say if I did a tuck at the front of 2 inches and then had the pocket at the back, that would be fine. So I might do, I'm going to score at 2 inches down the front. And then I will use that as a guide to determine where to cut my folder on the opposite side. Probably should have scored this way, so I might as well do both sides now. Okay. And so that is how wide I want my back cover. So I should be able to pop it in here. This manila folder, because it's being used, it has a little bit of a curve, so it's really important to make sure I flatten it. What I might do is paper clip down the spine. That will keep it flat and ensure that I'm not cutting it crooked. Okay, so now I have it in place. I actually want to lift this part. And that's not bad at all. It's a fun little scrap. I also have a scrap here from the cup that I made before I turned the camera on. So, okay. And what I might do is I might I'm thinking I'd like to taper the edges slightly because I don't want them to interfere with the spine. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use the guillotine, I think. Oh, I don't think that'll work. Finish that off with the scissors, and then I can turn that around and I can cut this one. So I'm using a similar philosophy as you do with the tags. I'm going to turn this around and I might see if I can paper clip it slightly at one end. I'd like them to be similar in angle, and I'm not trusting myself to do it without help. So, so this is what I've come up with. Okay. And then this side, I think we just take off this whole strip. Or do I want to? I'm not sure about this. Where did my little strip go? So if I flip that over, I could have just flipped that over, hey. Oh, who's a thinker? Too funny. I'm going to snip that little piece off. handy little piece. I might actually keep that little piece in my templates. Okay, so I'm kind of thinking about doing a side tuck and a pocket at the front. I'm having trouble letting go of the pocket at the front, can you tell? Of course, I could just do 2 pockets. Oh, choices. No, not that way. Oh, do I want it that way? I think I like it that way because I get the look of the side tuck more prominently than the pocket, but I actually get both. So I could essentially tuck something in here and then have, I don't know whether this is big enough, too big, but then I could have something in there as well. So I think I might do that just for something a little bit different. But remembering you have choices, so if you do a cover like this, you can totally make it work for you. Okay, now to decide what to cover it in, because I do have some calico to my left, this way. Because it's my signature, you know that. I'm trying to decide whether I want plain on the outside. I consider calico a plain, so as in not patterned. And I like to mix the calico. I love the tones of the calico. The neutral, the creaminess. I feel like it has a little bit of a natural look about it, which for me screams vintage. And I love that I can marry that with pretty much, I don't think I've come across a pattern yet that it hasn't worked with. So I can marry it with anything, whether it's fabric or whether it's paper or card or wallpaper, or like I just haven't found anything that it doesn't marry with beautifully. So I'm trying to decide if I would like, now I had a thought. Okay, so I'm thinking I want it on the outside. So that may not work for what I was thinking of. No, it could do. Okay, I'll tell you what I'm thinking, or what I was thinking of doing. Because we did this one and we had these beautiful frayed edges, and I loved the fraying here against the wallpaper, I had considered whether I could make that work with this cover somehow. And when I initially decided to do the pockets across the bottom, I was like, if I put the calico, okay, let's just play with this piece, which I haven't cut to size or anything. If I put the calico across the front, oops, and that piece doesn't have, I had a factory edge at the bottom, so I'm going to turn it around. Awkward. If I have this like this and I fold this over all the way around, in actual fact I might even cover it. Do I need to? No, I don't need to do that. So I would do it like that and bring that in. What I'm thinking is, whatever I cover the pocket in, I can then turn this up and have this frayed edge against whatever pattern I pop over just the pocket to kind of tie it into the front. These pieces here and across the top and down the side will be covered by either my backing paper, or in this instance it will wrap around the pocket. So this would be patterned. I'm just thinking I would cover this flap with the calico. So this would be a calico tuck, but then I would have pattern paper on the two pockets. And then I would tie that tuck in by bringing that up as well, I think. Or I bring that up. I like the idea of tying it in. Okay, so let's cut this to size. Now, again, I don't know if you can see, shifting things when I shouldn't. I'm going to take a couple of threads and I'm just going to check that this is relatively straight, that I can pull my thread. Because I want to fray that edge, I just want to make sure that it will fray straight. So that is a straight fray. If I pull my next piece, it comes off as one complete piece. So I'm going to pull a couple of more because it would have been easier for me to pull it from the outside, but this here is cut a little bit shorter. So and if, like me, you struggle, if you have this is a Cricut tool, or maybe a seam picker, you can use that to just help pull those threads. And I'm going to do the same at the side, and I'm pretty sure that this is a straight. Yes, it is. Okay. So, and I don't necessarily need the side to be straight, but if I don't check now before I cut it and I change my mind about how I want to work it, then I won't have that choice. So again, this was all relating to, oh, wrong video. It was all relating to when I frayed the edges on this journal cover. And it was a project that I did some time ago, and I hadn't really thought about the fact that I would fray the edges. That was something I decided when I finished this journal cover off, which was just a couple of days ago, and the edges weren't straight with the fabric. So in other words, the edge had been cut, but it hadn't been cut according to where the fibers were running. So that's what I'm checking. And again, I want to give myself enough clearance on this side to tear, but to also be able to fray the edges if I'd like to. Okay, so just going to check my fray on this side. Now that's gone all the way up and then double back again, probably because I have the selvaged edge here. I've mentioned before I'm not a sewer, so I'm not 100% sure, but it all came off in one large piece. So I know that that is straight according to the weave of the fabric. That's what I'm trying to work with, the weave of the fabric. And it's all to keep my frayed edge relatively straight. Okay, so about there. Okay, good fray there. So I've just realized that my pattern papers are, I was going to use digitals, but I haven't actually decided what digitals I would like to use. And so I probably need to stop the camera and do that before I continue too much further. I am going to, I think I will glue this down. Or will I? Maybe I need to go and iron this a little bit first. I might do that. I might go and press that a little bit and print out the papers that I'd like to use, which I haven't decided yet, but, or I have some wallpaper. I don't know. I'm going to go and have a little think and come back and we will finish off what we started. Sorry guys, but I am kind of thinking on the fly at the moment. I just knew I wanted to create a cover out of a manila folder and I hadn't really thought too much further about the process that I wanted to use. So, okay, I'm back again. I had a little think about what I wanted to do. I've pressed my fabric and didn't get all of the creases out completely, but that's just the way it is when you're working with calico. It does have a bit of a durability, a toughness about it. And was trying to decide what pattern paper. Now I thought about using a digital and I may still make one with a digital, but for now I'm just making general journal covers, and so I didn't want to use anything that would determine what I had to use it with. So, well, that doesn't make sense either because I'm actually using a pattern wallpaper and obviously the pattern determines what I use it with, but what I'm saying is it's neutral to any pattern paper that I put in here as far as design is concerned. So I only have a couple of wallpapers, and when I first started looking to get some wallpaper, this was actually one of the first that I found, or I think it may have been the first that I found, and it's just a border roll rather than a large roll. And I've actually got 2 full rolls plus this little piece. Now I've just cut a section off because the outside area was a little bit ratty. And I really love the colors in this and the tones, so I've decided to use this for my pockets. Just trying to decide how big a piece to cut. So I'm thinking if I cut it to about there. And then possibly should have made that a little bigger because I would like to wrap it. Let's try that again. So I'm going to have a bit more of an overhang so that I've got room to play. Hindsight is a wonderful thing. The beauty of you guys watching me is that you can learn from my mistakes. Okay, so just giving myself a little bit of an allowance so that I can wrap it around the pocket to create some really nice edges on the pockets. And checking I'm going to have plenty for the other pocket, which I should. I'm going to trim that up. Okay, so they're ready. I've also grabbed some recycled paper that I've made using the brown packaging paper. I'm running low in the thicker pieces that I have. I have some thicker and some quite thin, just playing with textures and how I wanted to do them. And I love the thicker pieces for the inside of my journal covers because they do offer a bit more stability. I have found when using them that I need to be a little bit careful about the glue because they can absorb the glue really well. A bit like you get bleeding through the fabric sometimes. I've had that happen with my brown paper, so I do need to be a little bit wary of that. But I really love them for the inside of the journals. And in actual fact, this journal cover here has the paper inside it, and it's just beautiful. It's got that tiny bit of texture which I would expect to see. I actually have a vintage book over there that has what appears to be homemade paper in it, so there's a really coarse texture to that book paper, and part of the reason the book came home with me because of that. I don't know that I'll ever use it for anything like this, but I just love the paper. It's just an indication to me of those vintage days gone by. So let's get to gluing because I'm kind of ready to adhere my fabric, and I'm going to do it in stages. So, oops, wrong glue. And I haven't done a journal cover like this or quite like this before, so this is new to me. If you're watching it for the first time, you're not on your own. But I think it will be really, really pretty. Just want to check my placement again because once I adhere my glue, I'm actually wondering, you know, paper clips are my best friend. I'm wondering if, oops, just I feel like I have a little bit of, every time I move something, I seem to take whatever's on my workspace with me at the moment. So I just like that little bit of security. Okay, so just going around this with my fabric glue, my Hellmars fabric glue that I get from Spotlight. And I'm again doing it in sections just basically to make it a little bit easier. I don't really want direct fabric contact at this stage. What I found is if I let the glue get just a little bit tacky before I pop it onto the fabric, and obviously how long that takes is determined by the weather by a large degree, but I don't seem to get the same seeping through the fabric as I do if I put the glue on really quickly and then turn it over straight away. But it is about picking your timing, I find, because sometimes I go to adhere it and I get worried that I've left it too long. Okay. I'm going to straighten out that little goober. And I've used my paper towel, so I need a fresh one. And now I'm going to fold that over. And I'm going to basically press outward. Oh, good adherence. So towards the edges, I'm going from the inside towards the edges. Checking that again. I'm really just checking for seepage at this stage to make sure I'm not pressing too hard on my glue so that it's coming through the fabric too much. I am getting a little bit firmer each time, which is another reason I want to check. Lovely. Okay, so I can take my paper clips off now. I don't need my friend's help anymore. I'm folding this over and I'm going to do, I'm taking this away because it started to dry, so it has formed a little bit of a bump and I don't want that to come through the fabric, and it would show quite easily. Okay, so repeating the process. Trying to get as close to my edges. I find if I come down and go, it's kind of about going in the direction that is going to work best for you. And I've mentioned before, the way I angle my bottle determines which direction I'm best to go in when I add the glue. Again, I don't really want direct contact with the fabric just yet. Nope, should have lifted my bottle while I did that. Again, just letting it sit for a couple of moments. And it is important to fold it right out to make sure you have no bubbles. In case you didn't notice, I had a couple of bubbles here. If you miss them, you are able to rewind because I didn't point them out straight away, I'm sorry, but it's important to make sure that you have all of those taken care of, because once this is down, you can't do anything about it. Okay, so I'm noticing that this has a tendency to, I'm going to turn this around actually so I can just burnish away from the center. If I did fold this over and I noticed I had seepage, I would stop burnishing. I wouldn't do any more, because the more you push on it, the more seepage you have. And that has happened to me with one of my journals before. I do want a little bit of glue. Maybe I can get just a tad. Yeah. Not pressing that too hard at this stage. Okay, and then this one here. So my plan is to fold that over. So that is a calico tuck. I'm like, do I want to adhere it now or not? But no time like the present, they say. Okay. Again, not pressing too firmly. Now, there's something about calico that just sends me to my happy place. I was like, I love it already. And then I went, that's because it's calico. Just can't go wrong with it. Okay. Trying to be careful not to press too hard. See, I would run my hands over it all day if I could. Okay, so so my plan is to tuck that over and glue it down. And I would like to do the same with the sides. So I'm just going to taper in those sides a fraction, because I think I'd like to tuck those sides in before I tuck the edge across. And I just need to cut a little piece, and I'm trying not to get right close to the corner. I'm hoping you can see. Okay. So I'm going to fold those edges over. My paper towel, where did you go? Here, right in front of me. Oops. So just finishing off those edges. A little bit of pulling there, so I've just trimmed off a little piece. And doing the same on the other side. And I have a glue goober because I didn't close the lid, which was really naughty. And I'd like to take that little bit of excess away if I can. Oh, and I pressed too hard on that, see, and it seeped through. Lucky it's on the inside of the tuck and it won't be seen. Just see if I can show you what that did. So I'm hoping you can see in camera there I have seepage through the fabric. So if you push too hard on the really, really wet glue, that is what will happen. So lucky that happened on the inside of the tuck and not on the outside of my cover. Oops. And then I'm going to finish off by adhering this over the edge of my cover. I'm going to pull it in from the middle and work towards the outside. I'm not quite as concerned about getting goobers on the inside part here because I'm more concerned with making sure I have a really neat and tidy finish on the edge. Although I really love the frame. And so you can see there the edge that we've ended up with. I do need to just trim that tiny piece. Just pressing my corners in to stop them from looking too shabby, and if I do that while the glue is still a little bit wet, I end up with a better finish. For some reason, there we go. Okay, so that's that. Now I think I would like to cover these. Just trying to work out how this pattern continues. Goes that way. So and I think I like the idea of using this bottom piece that doesn't have all of the dots and things, just the flowers. So if I fold that, not very straight, I don't think. That's a bit better. Okay, so oops, I need to cut this. I might actually use my paper cutter, I think. Straighten up that edge. Just trying to give myself a little bit of a lip to be able to tuck over the top of the pocket to finish it off. And pencil. I'll go this way because I know it's a straight edge. I just completely flipped my pencil over and ended up on the floor. Okay, and I want to cut it just below that line. Now, where is my line? So I haven't made that very dark. I need to make it darker. It's at the top of that dot, basically. Okay, so I'm hoping I can use that as a guide, and I should be able to cut this one. So in actual fact, let's just use my little scraps here to help. So that's the bottom. It almost looks like a satin ribbon, that little strip off the bottom of the wallpaper. Okay, so that's that little piece. And then it would have worked fine the other way, don't judge. It's just like, I was wondering where my dots were. I was like, did I not cut into the dots? Why isn't that working? I just had that piece upside down, so. Okay. Then this is really just about cutting it to roughly the size of the pocket. Okay. And then I wonder if I can use my scoreboard to fold the other piece in the right spot. So about 3. It's everywhere. Oh my goodness, how pretty is that? Okay. I'm cheating. I'm looking before it's finished. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply, taking this paper with me every time I turn this. I'm going to apply, oh, wrong glue again. I keep grabbing for that. And I'm possibly making this more complicated than it needs to be because it's me, it's what I do. Helps if you open the glue. Oh my goodness. Like, you don't have to play with as many papers and textures and all of that sort of thing, but again, it makes me happy, so just doing my thing. Okay. Oops. Made a mess of that. Trying to decide if I want to fold that over. I don't think I do because I feel like it's going to add bulk that I just don't need. So initially I was going to, but I'm changing my mind, guys. Oh, and be careful not to cut into my calico, which I almost did. But I am going to tuck that over there. Perfect. So I'm going to pop some glue on that now, and I do want to make sure, yes, so I've cut it straight so it doesn't actually come out over the tapered edges. And I think just going to wipe that towards the top. I just want to make sure the edges are stuck down really well. And burnishing that edge down really nicely so I have a nice clean tuck for the pocket. And that's laying lovely and flat. I think that's really pretty. Okay. My second one. Oops. Okay, so sorry, I just got a phone call. I'm just remembering where I'm up to. So I was attaching this. I did finish burnishing this down once I received the phone call, just so that you know. And it was really hard to take the phone call and not continue crafting. I was like, I was on a roll. But it was a nice phone call, so that's all good. Okay, so I'm just lifting my calico strip at the bottom so that I don't cut into it. And repeating, so cutting straight or close to straight. And then following the diagonal that we've created for the pocket. Okay. And just checking I'm not going to get any overhang, which I'm not. And gluing this flap down. My fabric glue is getting low. Okay. Okay, so we have our pockets done. So now I feel like I would like to do fabric. I'm going to cut this piece straight, I'm thinking. Okay, and then on this edge, just tapering that ever so slightly. And I'm being so careful I wasn't cutting through that very last fibre. And the same here. And I need to also taper these pieces. And again, see, one fibre, one lonely little string that didn't cut. Okay. And my straight is not very straight. And I do want to fray that. Sorry, I'm kind of talking to myself now. I forget that you're there. Well, I hope you're there. Oh yes, still recording. Okay, that's probably enough for the fray. It kind of reminds me of a band name or something, The Fray. I don't know why I keep thinking that, but every time I say it, it's like it has a persona of its own. Okay. Now, I'm wondering which way I want to go. I folded it this way. Or do I want it to go? I don't think it really matters. I'm covering it anyway, so... Now, I don't know if you can see in camera, but I do have a little seepage there. Again, I didn't wait. Just that couple of moments of waiting seems to make a difference when it comes to whether or not that glue seeps through the fabric. So, my mistake. But hopefully, again, most of that will be covered over. I really want to burnish, but I feel like it's too soon. Noticing some lifting in this corner here, so I'm going to just add a touch of glue there. Seepage doesn't matter so much because it's on the inside of the tuck. But I worry with the movement of popping things in and out of that tuck that it may lift that fabric more and then cause an obstruction inside, so take care of that now. Okay, and then my piece across the top, just want to see roughly where I need it to come to. Oh, my bottle is getting low. I'm quietly hoping I have enough. I think I'll be right. Okay, so I'm going to let that sit for a moment because I didn't last time and it seeped through. Just spreading it towards the edges a little bit. It's starting to get tacky now. And again, turning it around. Just working away from me seems to work better. And I'm just pulling from the center and working towards the outside. And I'm just pulling on that fabric just to make sure it's firm against the edges. I'm not pulling it too tight. I don't want to curl my cover. Okay. Have a loose thread. And now I noticed with this that when I fold this up, this isn't going to quite cover the inside. So what I'm thinking is I might add a piece of thin lace. So I'm thinking of adding this underneath here. This doesn't have to come all the way across to this pocket either. As you see, that covers up quite a substantial amount. So making sure I come across my covering and I have it sitting where I want it there is more important. That's what I'm looking for. I'm like, do I like that detail of the lace down the bottom? Oh, in actual fact, I don't have to do that if I'm lifting that up. Okay, ignore that. Okay. But I hadn't considered whether or not I was going to cut that, which I had actually thought about doing. But I think if I sew that, my signatures will be sewn in. So if I add a little bit of glue to hold that in there and then glue those onto my pockets, I think that'll work okay. Oh, and this is coming over here. But I did just really like it the other way too. Oh golly. I think I liked it that way because that fraying is showing against that fabric as opposed to the calico against the calico. That's my next step though. That's not this step. So I need to adhere. Just like, which side do I want facing? Whether I want, there's a slightly more textured side and then a slightly flatter side. So the flatter side is what sits against the mesh as it's drying, or the paper. I tend to take my paper and I sit it onto some baking paper and just sit that on my surface, and that's what is sitting on the baking paper. I think I like that textured surface more, so I think it's going to go that way. And I think I might get my new bottle for this because I don't want to run out halfway through. So I'm just going as close to the edge, and the edge is uneven. So taking my time. Oops. Okay. I'm not getting a proper flow for some reason. It's a little bit better. I have noticed when gluing over this paper, because it's textured, the nozzle has a tendency to catch on little bits, so I need to lift it slightly above, although you can hear it's making contact. It's hard to explain. I'm not applying the same pressure that I would normally apply, mostly because I can't. It just doesn't move across the paper if I add the same pressure when I'm applying the glue. Nope, stuck to my fingernail. Okay. And it's much harder to burnish from the top of this textured paper, so I'm going to just checking for seepage on that side. Noticing it's not adhering there. I thought there was a little spot there, but I might run around it with a little bit of art glitter glue in areas where it hasn't quite come to the edge if it needs it, like in there. It is very warm here today, so it could be that the glue dried a little bit quicker than intended. Because I was quite close to the edges, but you just never know. Oops, don't really want it there. And this is adhered quite well. I just would prefer to try and make those edges as tight as possible to the fabric. I think that's not too bad. And then glue that up. Now I'm just trying to decide if I would like to sew around it. Do I want to sew around it? The other thing I need to do is to re-burnish so I can fold it. Because that paper is quite tough. So can I do that now? I'm just wondering if my glue will be dry enough. Possibly not. We'll see how we go. So I can see the fold through my fabric. Okay, that bone folder I was just using is quite thin, so now I'm going to go in with a much thicker bone folder. And I'm adding a little bit more pressure each time I push on this. I think I prefer it that way just because I get that pop of colour and it kind of breaks up the calico. So I'm going to attach that way. Oops. I want to paper clip that down. I just want to see how much bulk having that calico in the center not cut is going to create as a fold, and I think that'll be okay. I was worried that it might offer a little resistance when I fold the cover, but it feels pretty good. A little bit of thickness, but not that it feels bulky or anything like that. Okay, so stitching. I don't know that I do. Again, I'm not 100% sure. So I'm like, maybe I should just leave this cover as that until I use it. Again, I can decide then. I guess really for me, it depends on what I put on the front as well, or whether I put anything on the front. If I don't put anything on the front, I may steer more towards the plain calico look. But I think I'm going to leave that decision for when I actually create a journal out of it. So that's where that's at. I really love the look of it, like so happy with it. And I hope you've enjoyed it too. See, if I sew around it, I could actually sew that closed at both ends as opposed to gluing. Undecided. So my instinct is telling me to just leave it for now. So I hope you've enjoyed it. I love the look of it. Love, love, love the look of it. And I think it's going to make a really pretty, fun journal cover. So, okay, I hope you've enjoyed watching this process. We're getting quite a collection of beautiful journal covers. So our plain calico, which is a trademark for me. We have, oops, the normal journal cover, which I haven't done as part of these videos, but you've seen me make those in previous videos. And then we have our, I had threads wrapped around it from my calico, our faux patchwork quilt cover. So I just, as a collection, I think they look absolutely adorable all together. So I hope you've enjoyed watching this particular cover, and I look forward to seeing you soon, everybody. Please don't forget, give me a thumbs up, like this video if you've enjoyed what you've seen, subscribe to my channel and hit the bell notification and select all so that you don't miss any future videos, and always feel free to comment. I love to hear from you. I look forward to seeing you soon, everybody. Happy crafting. Bye for now.